Now, why are so many fan bases upset with the MLB All-Star Game selection, specifically the selecting process for who is in the All-Star Game versus who isn't? Now, if you're not familiar with how the All-Star Game selection process works, the first round, the players who are going to start the All-Star Game are decided by a fan vote, but past that, it is selected, I believe, by MLB players, coaches, and then MLB themselves. Now, the reason there is a bit of controversy with this, both in the National League side and the American League side, is some players that should have been selected weren't selected, and fan bases are mad about it, rightfully so. Now, starting with the National League, because that's more of the recent controversy, what happened is that after a recent player decided not to play, the starting pitcher for Milwaukee, Jacob Misiorowski, was selected to be an All-Star, and the main team that was upset about that was the Philadelphia Phillies. So much so that Nick Castellanos called it the Savannah Bananas, basically selecting and making it seem like it really doesn't matter, it's just for show, which it kind of is. And he made his argument very clear, and you can see why MLB made this decision rather than the two starting pitchers for the Phillies that had an arguably better case to make the All-Star break than Jacob Misiorowski, that being Christopher Sanchez and Ranger Suarez. Now, the reason they chose Misiorowski is because he has arguably the best stuff, pure stuff, in the game right now. But the reason why there's controversy is because he's only been in the league for about a month. He was just called up, he's made 5 starts, and he's been very solid in those 5 starts, specifically his last one against the Dodgers, which is probably why they had him replace a player in the All-Star game. But truth be told, Christopher Sanchez and Ranger Suarez both have had better seasons on a whole than Jacob Misiorowski, which is why there is controversy there. The reason MLB's doing this, and you can see the argument why they're doing it too, is because when you're watching the All-Star game, you want to see the best players play, and Jacob Misiorowski is arguably a better player than the Philadelphia Phillies pitchers. Wins, losses, Ks, this and that should go into effect, but MLB's just saying, no, this guy is a pure better pitcher, he's brand new, and we want to put our best brass forward, and that's exactly what they're doing. And he's going to put on a show in the All-Star game, there's no doubt about it, because that's how good he is. It's just upsetting because, again, they're kind of going against precedent, which MLB is going to do whatever they have to get the ratings higher, and this is one of those aggressive decisions they're making to do that. Now, over to the American League side, the reason why a couple of teams are upset was because of the last outfield spot on the All-Star team for the American League. It was given to Julio Rodriguez, who did not have as good of a first half as 3 other players, specifically George Springer of the Blue Jays, who probably should have got it instead, Ceddanne Rafaela, who, if you want to make the defensive argument, he had a better defensive season, and he's still pretty good with the bat, and then Joe Adell, who was the best outfielder, arguably, in June in all of baseball, but he had a rough start to the season, so his argument is a little bit less. But they gave it to Julio Rodriguez simply because he's more popular. He's basically the top player, popularity-wise, on the Seattle Mariners. Of course, Cal Raleigh's going to be popular right now because he's leading the league in homers, but Julio Rodriguez has been their star for the last couple of years. Now, he decided to not play in the All-Star game, and his replacement was his teammate Randy Arozarena, who is nowhere near as good as those 3 players I mentioned, which is arguably why so many fans are upset, because that decision makes no sense other than just he's another Seattle Mariner, which, again, hasn't had that precedent in the All-Star game simply because a lot of replacements, because not every player that is elected an All-Star is going to play, a lot of those replacements have no, same team mindset. MLB doesn't do that with other teams, but they did that with the Mariners here. Kind of weird to see and why they did it, and a lot of fan bases arguably have a reason to be upset, but really MLB, again, is just going to do everything they can to try to increase the ratings, and if it works, they're probably going to do moves like this again, and if it doesn't work, well, we'll see. But one of the things they did to bring back fans is a simple change that everyone requested to let the players wear their regular uniforms, so we'll see how that does. But what do you think about the MLB moves with the All-Star game that are kind of iffy to some, but arguably understandable to others? Let me know what you think in the comments, and as always, like and follow for more.